mariachis, lions, and my wife.
All right. So as you can see, it's an interesting title. I had to think about that just for probably about 30 seconds. This is a story about me. It's a story about basically about how I met my wife, and it tells a little bit of story about me. So with your permission, I'll continue. Anyone here religious or spiritual at all? Because I'm not. Really, I'm not. But this story kind of makes me wonder, is there anything else possibly happening out here? I don't know how many of you know the name Ronald Reagan. I hate to give him credit for something. However, the story kind of does start while he was running for president, so around 1980. He was running for president in 1980. Mexico City was building their subway system. And I don't know if you know that much about history about Mexico, but the Spaniards came in and basically destroyed the entire culture, that indigenous culture that was there. One of those cultures were the Aztecs in central Mexico. Well, while they were digging the subway system, they happened to find the ruins of the old Aztec pyramid, pretty much right underneath the main Spanish cathedral in what they call the Zocalo in Mexico City. So, how does this relate to me? Well, my mother is an architect. My mother took my father, her parents, down to Mexico City for their 50th wedding anniversary. My mother, being an architect, likes to see cultures, buildings, and loves to see ruins. So she's been around the world. Mexico City was this destination. They go, they're in the main central cathedral, and they see a line. And it looked interesting, so they got in line. My grandfather, a very verbose Jewish lawyer from New York City, you can only imagine. I've only picked up some of his characteristics. Started a conversation with another American man online. His name was Dewey. Dewey, and they were talking about Ronald Reagan, so there's a connection between Ronald Reagan, right? So staunch liberals, they had a lot in common. And Dewey, with his wife, Gloria, who happened to be my future wife's aunt, wanted to spend the next 2 days traveling Mexico City. Over the next 10 years, my parents went down and visited Dewey and Gloria. My brother, who's 3 years older than me, went down, didn't stay with Dewey and Gloria, but stayed with their relatives, with Gloria's sister, which would be my wife's mother. So my brother actually met my wife and her sisters well before I did. And it was a good thing, because she would have met me when I was about 13, and it was not a good thing. She's 5 years older than me, so you can imagine, probably not quite a good age difference at that point. 1990, my parents had their 25th wedding anniversary, and they invited Dewey and Gloria to come up for it. And Dewey and Gloria don't have any guests, any children of their own, so they usually like to bring one of their nieces. It was Monica's turn. I happened to be coming home from my overnight orientation program at Michigan State University. I just graduated high school a month before. I hadn't slept overnight, right? I looked like crap. I didn't smell very good. So I really was not in good shape. I decided, as I was coming into Chicago, I'd stop off at Bridgeport, visit my Irish girlfriend at the time. Yes, an Irish girl from Bridgeport. Yeah, it's pretty typical. Well, we'd been dating for about a year, and it really needed to be over. Because when I got there and I wasn't feeling well, I wasn't smelling good, and I was tired, I said, I'm going to stay at home tonight. I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm very, very not feeling well. Proceeded to do the whole full-blown, you're standing me up, argue for 2 hours, and then I proceeded home feeling remorse. Walk into my house, the 2 Dobermans that we had in our house just came barking up a storm, greeting me at the door, which of course is always a nice welcome, if you like Dobermans, of course. And my parents screamed, hey, come meet Dewey and Gloria. I'm like, wow, finally gonna meet Dewey and Gloria. And I had a little extra, energy in my step. I was excited to finally meet them after about 10 years. Walk up the stairs, I turn the corner, they're basically in the spot where my wife would have been, excuse me. And I turn the corner and I see, I call it azúcar, I see sugar, I see this unbelievable person sitting there. And it was totally love at first sight, at least for me. She wound up staying in Chicago for an extra week. I used every cheesy teenage manipulation I could to win her favor. And we wound up dating on and off for about 4 years, 4.5 years. I came begging, crawling back a couple times. We got engaged. Our engagement party in her house in Mexico City. All our family, small middle class house. It's typical in Mexico at a big party. They call them reunions down there. The mariachis come in. So we have 9 mariachis there, dressed in white, and they start singing. Every ounce of the room is completely covered with sound and people. And the doorbell rings. The door opens, and her ex-boyfriend walks in, also wearing white, starts singing along with mariachis, and tries to take her away. Obviously, it didn't. So I was really pleased about that. I'm sorry, how much time do I have? Because I don't remember the timing on these.
5:52.
5 minutes. 1 minute?
Minute.
Okay, so we'll make it quick. Fast forward, 18 years. We're at a hotel in Tulum 2 years ago for another wedding, and the hotel canceled our room because the plumbing went out, and they had no room for us. So they wanted to put us an hour and a half away, which would have made us 2 hours away from the wedding party. Changed all our plans. We stayed where the wedding party was going to be. The hotel was apologetic. They said, go eat in our buffet. We went to the buffet, and we sat down. Within 5 minutes, my wife looks at me and says, we have to leave. I'm like shoving bread in my throat, in my mouth. We have to leave now. I'm like, okay, fine. So we couldn't get out, get in the car, and she tells me my ex-boyfriend was at the table behind us with his kids and his wife. She's like, the Mayan gods were sending a message by plugging up all the plumbing with shit, so we wouldn't have to stay at the same hotel as her ex-boyfriend. And I just spent it up for you. That's what I got. Oh, I guess to finish it, I should have said the spirituality part, right? The Aztecs spoke and introduced our family. The Mayans were sending us a message to not stay at the same hotel and avoid that whole area. So it does make me